Today's lesson. What are the signs of dementia? Dementia is an umbrella term to describe a group of signs and symptoms that affect memory, thinking, and even social interactions. These signs of dementia become severe enough to interfere with daily life. There are over 100 different types of dementia. Some are progressive, and a few types of dementia are reversible. These are conditions that can cause dementia like symptoms, and if caught early, can reverse those symptoms. Memory loss is often one of the first signs of dementia. It's important to note here that dementia is not a normal part of the aging process. World Health Organization reports more than 60 million people in the world live with dementia. With the aging population, there are more than 10 million newly diagnosed cases of dementia a year. Of course, Alzheimer is the most common type of dementia that most people are familiar with, and it's not the only cause of dementia. Dementia symptoms can vary due to underlying cause. There are, however, some key symptoms that are common warning signs of dementia. Let's look at some of these common warning signs. So, what are the signs of dementia? I think you'd be surprised to learn that the signs of dementia can start and show up as early as 20 years before an official diagnosis is given. Having memory problems does not mean you have dementia. In today's culture, we multitask. This is not the way our brain is supposed to work. The brain likes to do one thing at a time and complete it. In order to know you have a diagnosis of dementia, you need to have at least two other impairments that interfere with your daily life. Here's a list of impairments that a person with dementia may have. They can have difficulty with language skills. This occurs when the dementia damages the parts of the brain that control language. Communication problems may arise. Word finding problems, replacing one word for another, or combining words that make no sense happen. Focus, the inability to concentrate, becomes an issue. Reasoning and problem solving abilities decline. Depending on the cause, if dementia is diagnosed early, there may be treatment options to delay the progression of cognitive decline that occurs. As I said earlier, having trouble with memory can be an early sign and symptom of dementia, but these changes are often subtle. They tend to involve short-term memory. An example is a person will be able to recall long-term memories that took place decades ago, but are unable to tell you what they had for lunch just a half hour ago. There will be other signs of dementia impacting the short-term memory. A person may forget where they placed an item. I think about this. How many times have you looked for your glasses and they were just on your head, or you looked for the car keys? This alone can be the result of multitasking, stress, and not paying attention to what you were doing. Were you on the phone when you were putting things away? These are reasons that it may not be a sign of dementia. Have you forgotten why you entered the room? Or have you forgotten an appointment? Or were you driving and forgot where you are? These are different things, levels up. As a postmenopausal female, all these signs of dementia can also be part of our aging process. Here is when it may be dementia. Again, if you have more than two of these symptoms of dementia, that is cause for concern. Let's focus on difficulty finding the right word. This is another early sign of dementia. Having difficulty communicating thoughts. Again, this is what we call having a senior moment at times. We're in the process of communicating an idea and can't find the right word. That does not mean you have dementia. Those with dementia may have a difficult time explaining something. They may start mid sentence and totally forget what they were saying. A person with a diagnosis of dementia may take longer to express their thoughts and feelings. They may have changes in mood. Change in mood is a common sign and symptom of dementia. Depression is one of the most common signs of dementia in the early stages. Some with depression become more fearful, having increased anxiety. They get upset if the daily routine has been disrupted. Others find themselves feeling anxiety if they find themselves in unfamiliar surroundings. Perfect example of this I witnessed a few years ago with a very dear friend. She's traveling, we're in a new city, and she's driving, and all of a sudden, she's not listening to her GPS, and she stops in the middle of traffic in the road, trying to decide which way to go. The anxiety she had was just overwhelming. It was sad, but I knew then that was a sign, based on some other issues that I have observed, that she was definitely starting in the very, very early stages of dementia. A sign and symptom of dementia also includes observing a personality change that comes with the changes in mood. A once shy person can become outgoing and gregarious. Listlessness and apathy are common signs of dementia. This is a big sign of dementia that family members notice the most. Individuals that once had hobbies that they used to love to do aren't interested in anymore. They no longer have an interest in going out. A common complaint with family members is their family member's personality seems to be emotionally flat. I have had a question that a tenured professor left teaching because of dementia. And so many people have reached out to him via email or phone calls, and he has not returned their calls. I explain to people, don't take that personally. He's in the throes of the beginning of dementia where he's probably depressed and listless and apathetic and doesn't have the energy at this point in time to respond. Please don't take that personally and make an effort to see them physically. It's really important for their future and to delay the progression of dementia. Another sign that presents itself early is the inability to finish a task. It could be a subtle change, such as no longer being able to balance a checkbook, or follow a recipe, or playing a game with lots of rules. Many family members look back and remember that the mail would pile up, or paying bills was becoming sporadic. While these are signs of dementia that a person struggles to complete a familiar task, learning new things or following a new routine becomes even more of a struggle. So let's talk about how confusion can happen in the very early stages of dementia. In the very early stages of dementia, some may have troubles remembering faces, figuring out what day or month it is. Some may be walking or driving and cannot figure out where they are. I recently had a situation where a caregiver called me. Her husband, I've suspected, she's been in denial for at least 5 years, that there's dementia issues going on there. And it came to a head the other day when he was driving the car. By the way, just full disclosure, he did have an accident a few years ago, and I thought then he shouldn't be driving, but that was not heeded. Anyway, long story short, he was driving and she was in the car, and he absolutely forgot what he was doing and opened the car door while driving and was going to get out. He could, for a brief moment, which it seemed like decades for her, he didn't know who she was, and he became very angry and combative with her. I used the example of looking for glasses or misplacing the car keys. Not being able to recall your movements to figure out where you placed them could be a sign of dementia. Finding the keys in the freezer instead of in the designated spot on the end table is a sign of dementia. Many may not be able to remember their schedule for the day and miss appointments or regular obligations. This is what my client with the husband, he was they have a business together and they have a regular routine that they have had for many years. And he was not showing up for those appointments. It was out of character for him, and he's in the very early but change stages of dementia. Many have difficulty following or understanding a storyline, and that's a classic early symptom of dementia. With dementia often forget the meanings of the words they hear. They struggle to follow along with conversations or TV programs. Another sign of dementia is a person struggles with a sense of direction and spatial orientation. They may have difficulty recognizing familiar landmarks, and they may become unable to to familiar places they have not had difficulty going to in the past. Again, I'm going to use my friend who has lived in her city for decades, and they travel all over the city with their business. And recently, her husband was lost for hours because he couldn't remember how to get home. Again, he's undiagnosed, and this is in the early stages of dementia. His in and out moments are intermittent. So I think that gives people a chance of hope that there's something, it's not dementia, it's something else. It may also become more of a challenge in following a series of directions or step by step directions. Again, following a recipe or having difficulty putting together a piece of furniture with step by step directions becomes a challenge. Again, I'm going to refer to my friend whose husband is starting to have issues. He is a motorcycle enthusiast. He can take apart and put together a Harley Davidson with a drop of the hat. It's not a challenge for him at all. He's a mechanic type of guy. He, for some unknown reason, we don't know why, he decided that took the bike apart, his motorcycle apart, and now doesn't remember how to put it back together. So that's an example of somebody who definitely is in the early stages of dementia. A common sign of dementia that we all recognize is repetition. Repetition is due to memory loss and behavioral changes due to the brain changing. We all have been around someone who tells the same story over and over again. While this may not be a sign of dementia, repeating things like shaving or collecting items obsessively may be a sign of dementia. Repeating the same question over and over again, even after they have had a response, is a sign and symptom of dementia. Becoming inflexible and fearful over changes is definitely an early sign of dementia. They may not be able to remember why they went to the store or stop in the middle of a busy intersection because they think they are getting lost going home. Flexibility becomes a part of their daily routine. Consistency and fear of new experiences drives them to avoid anything new. They insist on maintaining a routine and really do not want to avoid anything new or different. Difficulty adjusting to a change is a typical sign of dementia. I had a roommate that we moved to a new city, and she had such challenges. She became fearful and anxious that she went and returned back home to her area where she's familiar with. She just could not handle the change. It was not flexible in any way, shape, or form. She does still to this day, 7 years later, does not have a definitive diagnosis of dementia, but she definitely is in the early signs of dementia, which is sad because if the family was observant and knew this, they could initiate things to slow the progression of the disease. Another consequence of dementia is the loss of the ability to make good decisions. For instance, a person with dementia may not be able to recognize a dangerous situation. They may try to walk across a busy street without waiting until it's safe to do so. They may wear mismatched socks or summer clothes in the winter. Poor judgment is a hallmark of dementia. Some have been frugal their entire life. They start watching shopping networks and order things that they do not need. Others start to give money away to every not-profit that they see on TV or receive a request for money in the mail. This is the time when they are most vulnerable to scams and giving away money to people they don't know. Inappropriate behaviors can start to be exhibited. A perfect example is paranoia. Some become accusatory and falsely accuse family members of stealing their money or abandoning them. Undressing is another inappropriate behavior that frustrates family members. A person with dementia can oftentimes take off their clothes but struggle to figure out how to button a shirt. An example of this is I had a client who became a friend. She was in her mid-80s, and she would sit in her living room totally naked all day, every day. She had struggles going to the bathroom. She had many cats, and she kept a litter box next to her chair so that if she had to go to the bathroom and she couldn't make it, she would go there. This is not appropriate. She had sons, and they ignored these behaviors, but they always knew that if they were coming to the house, they had to call her and tell her to put clothes on first. Again, it was the beginnings of dementia. So eccentricity sometimes can be perceived as just that, eccentricity. But there are times when behaviors such as this are definitely the signs of early dementia. Now, remember, there are so many different types of dementia. If you or a family member has memory issues or other signs of dementia, it is time to see a doctor for testing. The doctors need to rule out other medical conditions that determine a cause that is treatable. Early diagnosis and treatment can delay the decline of a progressive form of dementia. It could also reverse dementia if the cause is found and treatment is early. I strongly believe, and this is a personal recommendation, that you have a mini mental status done because you need a baseline test of a mini mental status exam. Early on, we should start having those in our 50s. And then on a regular basis, every 6 months to a year, be reevaluated because it will pick up on those fine things fine subtle differences that could be a sign of dementia. Or I strongly recommend that people get the SLUMS test done, the St. Louis University Mental Status Exam. That isn't, our medical professionals don't use that enough. They don't use it at all, hardly. And it makes me crazy because that is a tool that can indicate signs of dementia early on, because early diagnosis means early treatment that can delay the progression of the disease. I'm Diane Carbo, RN with Caregiver Relief.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss an episode of Caregiver Relief. If you have any thoughts, ideas, or suggestions for future videos, topics you'd like us to cover, or even improvements you'd like to see on the channel, drop them in the comments below.